Guardians. In our last report, we took a look at the Vault of Glass, information surrounding it, and potentially what the Vex could be doing there. But to better understand the Vault of Glass and to better understand the information presented to us, we have to take an in-depth look at the Vex, their intricacies, their subtypes, their organization, and potentially what they are and why they're doing it. To get a better understanding of the Vex, we must also take a look at their occupation. They've occupied pretty much all of Mercury, a large portion of Venus, and of course, portions of Mars. We don't see them yet on the Moon or the Earth, but we do assume that they are part of these planets, at least buried in every celestial body in the system. So we know that their occupation is vast. We understand that this is something that we undoubtedly should be very aware of. But we don't know exactly of their hierarchy or their subtypes. And to get a better understanding, again, we have to delve deeper into the organizational categories of the Vex. Much like our report, The Vault of Glass, the Vex categories, or at least creatures, seem to borrow heavily from Greek mythos. Now, they go in order of severity: Goblin, Hobgoblin, Harpy, Minotaur, and Hydra. And of course, Cyclops is there as well, but it doesn't really fit the realm of mobile platform. Now, we understand that these are borrowed from Greek mythos in terms of creature names and potentially some of their inspiration, but they definitely go further than that. And to do this justice, we have to explain each of the subtypes. Now, to best look at these subtypes, we have to understand them more as categories of the Vex. The Vex are a collective unit. They are one mind. They are one organizational body. There's no difference between one hobgoblin and a normal goblin. They see the same things and they're able to do roughly the same things. But again, to understand their objectives on each planet, we have to take a look at their subtypes. The first subtype of Vex we encounter is the Heathen Corrective. Now, they're swarming across the Ishtar Sink. These Vex aggressively seek out and attack Fallen House of Winter, perform inscrutable operations around shining confluxes, and show interest in Golden Age ruins left by the Ishtar Collective. The bulk of our contact with Vex forces on Venus has involved the Corrective. Those scholars willing to risk reputation speculating about the Vex often assert that the Corrective is an agent of change, designed to solve problems and remake the world in a form suitable to the Vex. But the Corrective may have an ulterior motive, and that ulterior motive shifts into the design of the Heathen Protective. Now, the Heathen Protective is the second major behavioral unit on Venus. It's concentrated mainly around the Vault of Glass and, of course, the Endless Steps, and they seem to be focusing on the towering citadel. The Protective's behavior seems very defensive, perhaps a sign of their name, of course. But leading cryptarchs and experienced guardians warn that fatal mistakes to think that the Vex is a conventional military occupying an area. Vex behavior is always a process, active and purposeful. The Protective is clearly engaged in a colossal project. But as with much Vex behavior, it is unclear whether this ultimate purpose is even comprehensible to us. The Protective may be reacting to an event that is yet to occur or working towards a goal that to us is already historical fact. Now, this information is pulled directly from the lore. We understand them as anyone could. But what we understand of the Vex is that they, again, are outside of time and space, as discussed in the last report. But the reports get more and more fearful as we delve deeper into the Vex. The Vex are not simply units of war. They're not just machines. They're multi-purpose. They're here to do something. Exactly what, we're still unsure of. What we do understand is that the Vex are beyond our comprehension, at least initially. We begin to delve deeper into them as we see more of them. But perhaps we'll see more as we delve deeper into the other subtypes. Now, hopping into the Virgo Prohibition. Now, the Virgo we will see undoubtedly on Mars fighting the Cabal. Now, this is very interesting. The Virgo is a Latin derivative for virgin. Now, there's a lot of different connotations here about what this can mean. When we first see the Virgo Prohibition on Mars, we see them losing the battle to the Cabal in the short term. At least what we assume to be losing a battle. They could be, again, another distraction, or it could be a test to pull out the full strength of the Cabal. We simply don't know. Now, there's two popular lines of theory about the Virgo Prohibition, and knowing the lore and knowing the information that we've received, a lot of symbolism here can be derived from the terminology applied to each of the Vex units. We understand again that Virgo is the Latin derivative for virgin, so what we can assume is either that the Virgo Prohibition is a new type of subtype. It's a new subtype, a new behavioral unit of the Vex that has been untested, hence their virginity. They are testing themselves against the Cabal. Or more simply, they're just there to distract the Cabal for an ulterior purpose, one of which we don't exactly know just yet. Ikora Rey, as we may know to be the Warlock Vanguard and mentor for many of our aspiring Warlocks out there, has stated and proposed that the Vex units can be best understood as algorithms, each a unique mapping of inputs to behavioral responses. Perhaps the Virgo Prohibition is simply the wrong algorithm for its environment, and its failure will drive the greater Vex network to adapt and improve. But on Mars, like on Venus, there is a secret. There is something there that has been there for quite some time, something dark, something terrible, and perhaps something that could allure to the end of humanity. Now, when we find this area, we understand it to be the Black Garden. Now, to get to the Black Garden, we require an object of a Gate Lord, the eye of a Gate Lord. Now, we understand these Gate Lords to be massive access mines, which are computational behavioral units of the Vex that basically embody the particular behavioral role of the entire Vex subtype. Now, to get through to the Black Garden, we need the codes or the information or perhaps just simply the knowledge that the Gate Lord has to get into the garden. What we find in the garden is something both impressive and terrifying at the same time. We find a god, or potentially a dying god, or some form of power that we cannot completely comprehend. And defending it is the sole divisive. Now, we understand the divisive to be the defending units of Vex, defending the Heart of Darkness, potentially the god in the area. And this is a report here. It says that all indicate that the divisive Vex behave religiously. Why would a hyper-intelligent, time-spanning thought mesh exhibit religious behavior? The answer seems as obvious as it is chilling. If the Vex found worship and devotion more effective than any other behavior, they would adopt worship. Whatever the Vex found or made in the garden, it transcends even their power. The reports on the Black Garden, although limited, we still can derive some information from them. And the best way to describe them is from a Ghost Fragment card. This one goes to Zavala. How would you like me to ask for the bad news? Even in this moment of triumph, I've finished going over the Ghost Report. It is my hypothesis, a hypothesis at best, that the Vex saw an indomitable presence at the heart of the garden as a divine power. I can hear you protest already. How can machines have a god? The answer is simple. The Vex, for all the voracious intelligence, could not understand or decipher what they found. They searched through all available reactions and settled on the course with the greatest payoff: to worship this power and to remake themselves in this image. This report continues, and again, this is Ikora Rey speaking to Commander Zavala. She believes that the 3 access mines found in proximity to the abomination were Vex machines, built to serve as vessels for this power, a way to extend its reach across space and time, binding it to the Vex and the Vex to it. If they had succeeded, I cannot begin to guess what horrors they would have unleashed. The 3 access mines that Ikora is speaking of is, of course, the Soul Progeny, something that many Guardians may face in the Black Garden. But it goes deeper than that, and potentially it's a little bit more interesting. The Soul Progeny is made up of 3 different types of Vex, potentially subtypes. The first is an average day, present day Vex unit, everything we see on Venus and Mars. The second one is a precursor. Precursors are Vex that have come before. We see them in the Vault of Glass. And then we face a descendant, Vex who come after, potentially after humanity's extinction. What this alludes to is that there is a relationship between both the Black Garden and the Vault of Glass. We understand that the Black Garden houses a sort of god, potentially a powerhouse, the ability to continually create Vex. But potentially, the way they continually create Vex is by going into alternative timelines and pulling Vex from different warp gates and applying them to this future, successfully granting them an endless supply of Vex. Now, as we understand it, the Vex are not simple machines. They're not just beings of war. They're not just there to destroy planets and take everything over. What we understand of them goes even deeper than that. Now, there is a series of Ghost Fragment cards, 3 of them to be precise, and I recommend heavily that if you want more information, you delve into these. But I'm going to give you the brief synopsis on these cards. These cards come from the Ishtar Collective. And again, the Ishtar Collective is a group of scientific minds, great scientific minds during our golden age that had the ability to explore greatness in such a vast way that we still to this day wish to undertake in and, of course, understand. So the Ishtar Collective captured a live VEX unit. Now, just one VEX unit. Now, to be fair, this story is a bit complicated and a little confusing, and it kind of delves in the realm of reality, so work with me here. Essentially, the VEX unit ran a simulation, and this simulation was discovered by the doctors as they captured it and were dissecting it, or at least trying to ascertain certain amounts of information. Now, this simulation the VEX unit was running was that the VEX unit had been captured, and that the VEX unit started to simulate what the doctors were doing. So there's two forms here. There's the actual reality, what we assume to be happening right now, which is the VEX unit is being dissected by doctors. And then there's the simulation. Now, the doctors were so distraught by this that they began to thought that they may be the simulation in the VEX, that they could be the simulation. Now, there is some truth to this. Now, we have to understand, and this is basically derived from one of the doctors, that they are the real reality, that they are the real versions of themselves. And what they did was they brought in a war mind. No VEX unit could possibly comprehend or simulate what a war mind would do. A war mind is simply too powerful, too intelligent for the VEX. And this is what they did. But the cards themselves are very, very interesting, and they sort of allude a little bit into what the VEX are truly capable of. With that being said, we understand the VEX a little bit more now. But there's still so much to be asked, so much to be gained, so much to at least derive from the VEX. We know them that they act almost human, that they're biological machines. They're intent on at least conquering the solar system in a way that we don't understand. They want to infect the system. They want to take it over. But what really are their end goals? To see their true end goals, we can look back to the Vault of Glass for this one. We know that they want to somehow become part of the universe, a law of life, a law of the universe, and that may be their end goal. Perhaps it's more simplistic to that. Perhaps we have some hand in their creation or potential downfall. Hopefully, we'll be able to expand upon it more in the future. But a question that remains here is, why are the VEX on Mars? Why is the Black Garden there, and why are they fighting the Cabal? Well, to better understand this, we'll be looking at the Cabal in my next report.